Hello, singing stars. It's me, Olivia Peck, your local millennial voice teacher. Welcome to the voice mode. It's Thursday. That means I'm answering your singing questions from the week. And right here on the computer, go ahead, drop your questions in the chat about singing, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Okay? I got some doozies this week. We're going to talk about T Swift, the queen, okay? And her singing. Super fascinating when you think about Taylor's voice. Taylor, like she's my buddy. I'm super excited. We're going to talk about the muscles in your throat, in your larynx, around your larynx, excuse me. CT muscles, TA muscles. So if you are curious about that, boy, am I going to explain it or do my best, okay? It's going to be very interesting. And as I said, if you have questions as we go about singing, performing, whatever, let me know. Drop them in the chat as I say. All right, let's get into it. I'm super excited. Let's start with a question from the week. Here we go. That's not a question. That's me. That's me. That's me from 13 years ago. I was gonna save this for later. But today's a really special day. Play music. I'm gonna tell you why. Today, not today, but this is the first live that I am actually officially monetized by ads, thanks to viewers like you. So that's very exciting. This was my first video. I wanted to show you guys a picture. Yay. That was from 13 years ago when I was doing like a skit. So I've been on YouTube just like all of us millennials. I've been on here for like my whole life. So this is a very exciting week for me. Okay, let's move on to the question. At Lorexillo, wanted to ask, if I train my head voice, will that make my mix stronger? I also noticed that my C5 and up mix belts sound bad. I hit the notes, but it sounds too whiny, but I feel like I'm using the same technique and resonance as I do for my lower notes. Any tips? Thank you. This is a wonderful question. So, talking about mixed voice, the best way I can describe mixed voice is it's not head voice, it's not chest voice. It does have components of both. So, when I do a mixed voice sound, I like to use meow as an example. Y'all will hear me do meow all the time because it's the easiest sound to make quick and easy. Like that's mixed voice. Now, if I were to go ooh, like an owl, that would be head voice. If I were to go hey in my lower range, that would be my chest voice. So you can really hear the difference. Now, when you really think about it though, your vocal folds, it's not like they do something wildly different when they switch to these different voices. It's still your voice throughout. It's all the same voice. So yes, if you practice your head voice, it is gonna help your mixed voice, your head voice. It's gonna help your voice in general. Now, how does it specifically help mixed voice? I'll give you an example. So if you were to do mixed voice just by itself without any I guess space that head voice gives you, it would be like it's a love story, baby, just say yes. It might feel a little bit you might start to feel like it's pushed. Like so adding a little bit of height to your sound, it's a love story, and trying to integrate that into your mix. So instead of it's a love story, yeah, giving it that height, it's a love story, baby, just say yes. It does help to exercise that space because no matter what you're singing, the space, aka lifting your soft palate a little bit, really helps throughout your range, whether you're singing in your high voice, your mid range, your low range, your chest voice, your mixed voice. That element of head voice is very helpful, and it's helps smooth out your range, mostly because of that whole soft palate effect. When you lift your soft palate a little bit, and your soft palate's back here. I have a video on the soft palate. Oh, okay. And it's that squishy part in the on the roof of your mouth in the back, and it lifts a little bit when you start to yawn, and that really helps balance your tone a lot. There's many benefits to it, so it does. It helps with mixed voice as well and balance your tone with mixed voice. Okay, another part of this question that I found important was that it said, I noticed C5 and up sound bad, like feels whiny. Well, I'm not sure without hearing this person, but if she also says, I'm doing the same thing that I do in my lower range, that's a little bit of a clue, maybe. So when you're singing in your lower range, you can get away with a little more nasal. You can get away with a little more volume. But as you get higher, you actually have to ease up on the gas. Not as much volume, or at least definitely don't get louder. You have to be a little more gentle with your breath flow, contrary to popular belief. And you also need to be careful with that nasal twang. Okay, so instead of C5 being that's using the same like intensity and nasal as maybe I could use in my lower range. Sounds maybe a little too whiny. But if I think gentle, meow, little more gentle, a little more oral twang, it's called. Wow. Hi, y'all. That's more what you want to think about. Okay? So I hope that helps. Just know that as you travel higher, you want to think getting lighter instead of louder, using not too much nasal, so you can even plug your nose and go and if it's going and you can hear that nasal buzz, it might be the nasal getting in the way. And this is a great thing about head voice. If you're practicing your head voice, that soft palate lifts up and actually blocks the nasal passage. Here's a picture. The soft palate is it's hard to explain it looking at the picture, but if you see the tongue, where the tongue is, that flap above the pink part, the tongue, the space part, that's a soft palate. So when it flaps up, when you do a little yawn, a beginning of a yawn, it actually blocks a little bit of that nasal passage, so it's not too nasally. Hard to explain without having you try it like with me right in front of me right now, but that's what I would recommend trying out. Just practicing your head voice is definitely good, and getting more gentle and like light, doing that light cry sound as opposed to going into the nose, if that is why you might think it sounds whiny. Okay, I have a little comment in the chat. Okay, I hit C6. Hey, Chris, when doing meow, because it's pure head, maybe whistle. I get real lightheaded. Also, how do I know if I added too much air? And he says, because when I did C6, I felt like I was passing out. Oh, God. These are the kinds of questions, y'all. Jump on in. Any question, okay? First of all, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what's going on with the feeling like you're passing out. But if you feel like you're going to pass out, the first thing I can think of from my non-doctor opinion and just voice teacher opinion, I think you're just breathing in too much, like too fast. That can happen. I mean, have you ever just gotten really excited and you're singing a lot? I don't know. And you're like, you're breathing a lot. Maybe you're going, try it again. If you keep doing that, yeah, it's going to make you lightheaded. So just be careful and kind of monitor that. Now, typically, rule of thumb, if you're singing in a mixed voice, that's like very little air. That's a speaking breath, okay? If you're doing it in head voice, head, maybe whistle. What I'm assuming, since I know you have a lower voice, you're not a soprano, I'm going to guess that whatever is happening up there, it's so high. We'll get to this later. I would not say that's definitely mixed voice or head voice. Y'all, it gets so high in your range sometimes that it almost doesn't matter anymore. It's like dropping the labels at that point and going, how does it feel? And how did you do that? Like, for instance, when I'm up there, you know, I'm more of a soprano, so it's high, but it's like I can get it out. And it's not necessarily whistle tone. But it's like, is that mixed voice? At that point, it's like it's just high. It's your vocal folds are stretching, and that's why it sounds like that. Now, if you're doing like you can stretch them more, I guess, is the idea of whistle tone. Like, that's like a whistle tone, I guess. Okay, I stretched a little more. But you got to be careful. You got to be careful with stretching and widening. Okay, you have to be gentle and careful with that, because you don't want to do too much. Okay. Okay. So everybody, kind of, without hearing you, I can't say for sure my opinion on this type of thing. I would have to hear you, because it's so dicey. That's so high. We're talking about I hope y'all can hear that. A male like baritone voice, that is extremely high. Okay. So thank you for the question comment. Be careful out there. Okay. We're gonna talk more about singing high though. So more where that came from. Yes, y'all ask your questions in the chat. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you don't know me, my name is Olivia Peck, and I am really excited y'all are here. Okay. Yes, I am a teacher. So y'all can reach out if you're interested in lessons. Here's all my info. It's all in the description. But we're going to move on because we have a lot of questions from this week. And also, I want to answer y'all's questions as we go. So if you're wondering something about singing, don't be shy. Okay. Blow it up in there. I want to know what you are wondering. Okay. That sounded aggressive. I'm sorry. All right. Let's go to the next question. All right. Hope you are well, Olivia. Thanks, Fender Fox. He says, I have a question. I've been working on high head voice stuff and learning to use my CT muscle for head voice. Okay, flag that. CT muscle for head voice. All right. Wondering if I'm doing this correctly. Should I be able to go as high as possible, like even into whistle or flageolet? Never heard the term flageolet before. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, to be honest. In all of my years, it's not a term that I've even used, but I really like the range of vocabulary in here. Thank you. I haven't gotten this high yet, but I feel like I'm on the right path. I just keep the folds together and yawn or use a cry. That's what I was talking about, like the whistle tone. Okay, that's kind of one of the tactics people use for whistle tone. Be careful with that, though. Okay, or cry, he says. I've literally tried everything and can't put them all together to make it work, even just singing in high head voice. Okay, so fortunately, I was able to ask this questioner something to get some more specifics. Okay, I was wondering, so is the goal to do like the whistle tone, or is the goal to just sing higher than you can now? I have heard this person sings before. Yeah, whistle tone is like flute. Like, I have heard this person sing before, so I kind of have an idea, a little bit of his range, maybe like baritone or tenor. Okay, area, just to give y'all a picture. But I was wondering, like, do you mean like being able to sing super duper like whistle tone, or do you mean just like higher? So stay with me. I'm going to give my suggestions. And he specified that he specifically likes, Journey, like Steve Perry, Chris Cornell, that type of thing. So, with that in mind, I have a little bit of an idea here. Okay. First, before we talk about how he could do this, I will explain the CT muscle. Okay. Now, in college, when I was studying voice, I had a vocal anatomy class. It's not something that's always talked about in voice lessons. Why? Yes, your CT muscle, just like your vocal folds, your larynx, they're always there and they're always doing something. They're part of your body, they're part of your instrument. Okay. So, yes, they are doing something, but can we see them? No. Do we always know? Like, I've never been able to go, oh, yeah, for sure, my CT muscle is, I can't see it. Some people, they can say, oh, my thing went down and it definitely, okay, let me show you a picture so we get an idea of what the CT muscles and all that is. All right, so here, first of all, here's your throat. Here's your face and your tongue, and all this stuff is part of your voice, part of how you make sound and your instrument. All right, let's zoom in. Here's your larynx. It's the best picture I could find that would explain this. I'm sure there are better ones. Anyways, can you see how it's shaped like your larynx? Okay, we're going to zoom in more. This is where the CT muscle comes in. It's the cricothyroid, okay? That's CT muscle. That's the long version of it. So when the cricothyroid engages, it stretches your vocal folds. When you sing higher, whether it's head voice, mixed voice, as you get higher in your range, your CT muscles are why your vocal folds stretch, okay? They're the reason your vocal folds stretch, and that is how your voice gets higher. Think about any instrument. If it's longer, and it's vibrating, it's going to create a higher pitch or a thinner, whatever. The point is that's happening whether in head voice, mixed voice, whatever. Now, there's also the TA muscle. That's the thicker looking one around your vocal folds. That they call your low voice muscle. So when you're speaking, that's in a nutshell. That's really simplifying it. Okay. Anywho, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about CT muscle. Let's get back to the question though, just to give y'all a picture. Now, how that relates to this. Some people use it, voice teachers use it in how they explain how this happens. I would say the reason they say that is they're trying to get you to coordinate your TA muscle and your CT muscle. So they're trying to say the way to get a fuller belt is to use both muscles at the same time. You can go that route if that helps you, great. Now, I don't use that route because it's hard to tell if someone's or it's not hard to tell if they're using their TA muscle, but it's just gets very hairy quickly. So what I like to do is try to decide, okay, is this person a heavy voice who can bring that weight up high? Do they have a medium voice where they can bring it up really high, but then they have to switch to maybe a mixed voice? Or do they have a light voice where they can't really bring that weight up too high? Okay. So that's more what I like to look at because we're all kind of different. And if I simplify it and go, use your TA and your CT at the same time, I think that's too general. That's my opinion, though. There are other people who go the route of the anatomy of it, and that is totally fine. It's what works for you. Okay, so I'm going to pause this, and I'm going to get back to singing like Chris Cornell after I answer this question. let's look at Dior. She had a wonderful question this week. I tried letting off the gas on my C5 belt and I sounded so much freer. Yay! And I realized I could mix belt up to F sharp 5 and need a lot of work. Of course, now my problem is continued. Well, great news. You've solved a lot by doing that. So, as I was kind of talking about, like, as you get higher, you want to get lighter. That is the idea. Easing off the gas. It's a term I use quite a bit. Um, and it's contrary to what most people do, okay? And in terms of getting up to an F5, that's great. I mean, that's super duper high. That's like for us sopranos, that's okay. We're going to revisit F sharp in a second, probably, okay? Being able to soften the dynamic and use vibrato at the end of my belt. When I try to soften it more, it turns into head voice. So interesting. So it could be a volume thing. So when you like, the way that like your shape changes, your vocal tract, your instrument changes as you go into softer. Like what is exactly happening as you get softer? Is it more like you start to cover, like if I'm going on my mix and I want to get softer? It should be fine if you just keep the same placement or shape you had before. But if you get softer and it goes, it might be that there was head voice in it already, kind of, and it's kind of slipping more into that, or it could be the shape starts to change as you get softer. If that makes sense, let me know. Okie dokie. I am loving this. Let's talk about Chris Cornell, okay? All right. When I hear singers like Chris Cornell and Steve Perry, I notice that they have sections in their range that function differently, and that's probably not far off from someone like one of my commenters earlier. Okay, similar voice range, tenor, maybe even baritone or baritone. Okay, when you have a voice like that, they've got this thick sort of falsetto sound. In their voice, it sounds to me more like a falsetto. Then they have this like bonus mixy range that's like, okay, maybe not with that weird growl thing I did. It's like, okay, my voice is like all over the place, but you get the like quality difference where it's more mixy. It's more mixy. Okay, it's more a little wider, I guess, but more twangy and the cry. So when you get higher in that, like what I call that for tenors is like their bonus range, because it's so up there. And I hear a lot of tenors who are able to do this, or even baritones, they kind of go into this bonus range where it's like C5 sometimes to like G5 or something like that. It's like way up there, kind of where I was just singing. And then there's this other section right below it that's more head voicey or falsetto. It's definitely like higher than their comfy range, but they're able to like make this really full head voice sound that blends into that bonus range. Does that make sense? So it depends on what part of your range you're in and your voice. So let's say you're trying to sing higher and you're like, okay, Olivia, what do I do? I would say take an NG and go and slide up and down. It'll help you find those notes, and then maybe you can open up on them. Okay, you can open up on them. that'll gently help you find and see what's happening at each of those sections. Let's say you want to get to okay. So that's different things you can do to slide up there, but definitely slide up there gently and then open up on it. That's what I would say. Okay, Chris. Compression is when you sort of hold in air. That might have been that might have been happening. I guess maybe like when I was doing one of the examples, but compression is essentially like holding in air and then you can create that rock sound. It's what a lot of rock singers do safely without actually creating like a real growl. It's a way to create a little bit of grit in your voice safely. You still have to be careful though, because if you do too much, I mean, you're essentially like kind of pressing your vocal folds together and holding in that air. And so you have to be careful, because if you do too much, you will get tired. And we don't want swollen folds, because then you won't be able to do mixed voice or anything. It'll just be swollen and you could do some damage. So be careful with compression or anything like that, because you don't want to stress your folds out too much. Okay? All right. Here we go. Y'all go ahead, ask your questions. If you're wondering about singing, I'm loving all of your questiones. Love them. All right, let's see what's going on. Oh my gosh, we're going to talk about Taylor Swift. Oh boy. All right, this is a good question. I love Taylor Swift's style. The way she belts, for example, the song I Know You Were Trouble. She looks up. The veins in her throat are clearly visible. I would love to belt like it. So much going on here. Love the comment. All right. So, Taylor Swift. I recently brushed up on that song and I wanted to see a live version of it, which there is. She goes, da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da, found me. She switches back and forth between like a mix, like a speaking sound. Found me. Something like that. But then she also switches to like a softer voice, head voice. And then there's this the belty part where she's like, okay. It's like, yeah. Oh, good. This is chaos. Oh my God. Okay. But that's the power of Taylor Swift. All right. Let me back up. It's terrifying. All right. Yeah. She does like it's only up to like a C sharp. Yeah. But it's more of like a mixed belt when I was watching this version of it. She does do a heavier belt though in some of her songs that I've seen, like, you know, in the studio, and it's a pretty raw vocal, which is pretty awesome. But it's still, even though it's a little heavier, it's still like more like comes from a mixy place, which is awesome. Like Taylor Swift is a more medium voice, I would say. I don't know her. I haven't seen her personally live. I've only watched videos. So take it with a grain of salt. But from my professional opinion, I think she has a medium voice where she sings a lot in her head voice and mix for a reason. It saves her voice. She doesn't have this super booming loud voice. She has a lighter voice, but she can still bring a little bit of intensity and weight into her voice if she so desires. So like, for example, in this one video I watched, she's going like, no, she's going, no, it was an E flat. But she gave it a little bit of chutzpah, okay? I can't do it with the word she was on, because I don't remember what it was, but that's what it was. It was like on an E flat. She brought that weight up to it, and she added a little bit of nasal. Okay. So that is how she sometimes brings that weight up. That's what I've observed. Some people, they're able to bring up that weight with their chest voice. I would not say that's something that she generally does. Okay. Anyway, but about the veins in her neck. Let's talk about that. So, I have heard this question from like other voice teachers and students about veins. I don't I don't have like a doctorate in voice I'm not a laryngologist. Okay, so I don't know, but I'm pretty sure my non-doctoral opinion is veins are not necessarily meaning you're doing damage. Because why do I say that? A lot of perfectly decent, um, healthy singers have a little bit of veins showing in their neck. You can literally see mine right now, and I am barely talking, okay? So, and when I sing, I have a little bit of veins popping out. I see it in some of my students. If it is a free sounding voice, I think it's okay. I don't zoom in on that, okay? I will say if it's something you're concerned about, go see an ENT. Go see a doctor. That's what you should do. I think it depends on how you're built. Like if you're a little bit like maybe fair skinned or like um don't have as much here, you might be able to see the veins a little more. So it's just kind of how people are built, in my opinion, and from what I think like other voice teachers have said, and I consulted others before I came right out on the internet and said that. Hey Chris, I see your question. All right. Can you talk about Hosier? I don't really know Hosier's music that much. So I'm not going to delve too much on Hosier. But yeah, y'all ask your questions. Throw them in there, and maybe I'll be able to answer. I know that Hosier, the most I know about him is My Lover's Got You. That's about it. I know he uses kind of a covered sound. Covered means like your sound is being covered by maybe your lips shape, a taller vowel, and sometimes, like in the case of like Josh Groban, it might be the tongue sliding back a little bit. Not necessarily bad. It's just the sound that he's going with, and I think he does it in a healthy way. Seems like he's still got his voice, and good for him. I generally say, relax the tongue, but it can be used like gently or carefully to like slide back a little bit to create a more covered sound. Okay. Um. Okay. So I'm getting a little harassment here. Mumford and Sons, Hosier Belt. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know enough about Hosier. Sorry. I did research about Taylor before I came on here. All right. And that's my professional opinion based on the clips that I saw. Hosier haven't done a lot of research on Hosier. Mumford and Sons, again, I only know a couple of songs by them, maybe. And to me, they sing softly, but I honestly cannot remember. So, but if you have a question about vocal technique or performing, drop it in the chat. Okay? About your voice, I would love to answer. Okay? Wow, really good questions, you guys. I've had a lot of fun today. Um, so far, I really like talking about singing stuff because it's something that has always interested me. I've sang all my life, but I've been teaching for the past 10 years. Does it mean that I like have a perfect voice myself? I was actually thinking about this recently, and I feel like a strength of mine is talking about singing, and you know, I've come a long way vocally, but I've had students come into lessons with me that naturally are incredible and were leaps and bounds ahead of where I was like 8 years into my singing journey or whatever. So just know that if you have a natural talent for singing, you should embrace it, do it. Like, even if you feel like you don't know everything about singing, there's two different things. It's knowing about singing and then actually singing really well. And sometimes you can have both, and sometimes, you've got this natural talent. So, anyways, just a little thing I was thinking about because I'm really inspired by all the amazing singers that I come across and felt like it needed to be said. All right. We have a lovely question here. If I have a very loud soprano voice, how can I adapt my singing to fit my loud voice well? Right. So if you have like you feel like you have a louder voice, so maybe heavier voice like naturally. Um, I would say just even though I recommend as you get higher, especially when you're trying to mix, to kind of ease up on the gas, embrace your natural volume. So definitely I wouldn't just don't hold back, okay? Be mindful if you feel like you're holding back. Another thing you want to be mindful of is since you have this nice loud voice, to let it come out naturally. I think it's like a inclination for all of us, no matter what our natural volume is, to finesse it. And if you already have that projection that's done for you, make sure you don't you keep it in check. You don't like I hear a lot of naturally loud singers who they still feel like they need to project, if that makes sense, but just keep it in check because especially if you're doing microphone singing, um you won't need to project that much, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Um, yeah. I think sometimes it goes back to, like, if you're really loud, especially as a kid, you're really praised for that in terms of, like, performing, like, "Crank it up, louder, louder, louder." Okay? Or you're praised for and I'm not saying this is you, but just knowing that whatever naturally comes out when you speak or sing a certain pitch, to kinda clock that and go, "Okay, that feels good." And then if you wanna open up a little bit more, you can, but just, like, not pushing it either way, pushing it to be quieter or louder. I hope that helps. And it's hard to, navigate sometimes. So that's a really good question. Alright. Here's a good comment. I actually found it helpful to sing late at night because it forces me not to sing loud. Yeah, that's a really good thing to think about. Like if you struggle with over projecting, um, I definitely recommend thinking about ways to keep that in check. So you can like put your hands in front of your ears. You can so you can hear yourself. Hello. You can hear your voice more accurately if you do that. You can also just make sure that as you're singing higher or getting a lot of times when you get like this will hopefully help Dior. When you get to a climax of a song, the natural thing to do is to really pick up the volume or the intensity. Just make sure you let the expression in your voice do the work for you and the instrumentation do that for you instead of getting a lot louder. It's natural to get a little bit louder in some points of the song, but if it's feeling like you're losing control, it might be because you're kind of artificially making a whole section louder because you're getting excited. It's like getting to the climax of the song or the chorus, or something like that. Like, for instance, if I were to sing Pink Pony Club and I were to go, Pink Pony Club, I'm gonna keep on. Not necessary at all. I could do that, but why? It's a microphone song. Pink Pony Club, I'm gonna keep on dancing at the Pink Pony Club. I'm gonna keep on dancing. Like, I really don't have to get the point across. I don't have to project a whole lot, and you're just gonna kind of overdo it probably if you get too excited. It's very common though. Everybody does it. It's normal. All right. So, yeah. Yes, when I'm loud, I can't access mixed. Like you said in my lesson with you, when I'm loud, I go to your head voice. Yeah. So, volume is crazy. It can really reveal a lot. I highly recommend playing around with volume and stuff like that because it can reveal stuff about your voice. Little story. When I was in college, I struggled with a lot of like tension. Oh my gosh. And I could not figure out what the deal was. Like, I could not. And turns out I was projecting too much. That was one of the things I was doing. And I was in a church choir because that's what everyone in college did in my program, it seemed like. Because it was like a part of just being a voice major, is like you sang in a church and you were a section leader and and I was like a soprano too in the choir. Well, in the rehearsals, I would sing a little quieter because I was trying to like not be loud, I guess. Not you When you're in choir, you have to blend. So you want to be able to hear everybody and everything. And I was singing and I was like, wait, I'm actually able to sing everything in a much more reserved volume, like a speaking volume. And I realized I didn't need to be so loud all the time because when you learn in choirs and classical singing, and as a child, everyone, it seems like, says, be loud, project, project. But you really don't have to. And in fact, it's very good to practice not singing super loud because you might be pushing when you sing louder. So, any resources for learning anatomy and biology of the throat, mouth, and nasal area for singing? I want to understand how to protect my voice and to work with my muscles for better technique. Good question. So, there's actually a really good website I found recently, and it is called, I just posted it in our Facebook group, actually. Let me see if I can pull it up. But it is a really neat website by a woman whose studio is very focused on anatomy and all the muscles. And it's really cool because it's about your neck muscles. Literally anything connects to here. Even your face muscles, your buccal muscles. It all connects to these muscles, which connect to your larynx, which affect your voice. Fun fact. So that's why when you smile, your sound changes because all of these muscles are connected to your larynx, which are connected to your vocal folds. So the shapes you make with your body really actually impact your voice. And they're like kind of optimal or healthy ways to sing. So let me go to as I digress, let me see what this website is called, and I'll try to remember to put it in the notes after I'm done with this. Okay. It's vocaltechnique.ca, and her name is Leslie Finlay, and she has, like, on her website, I'm going to click it and read it to y'all. Physiology, how various parts of the body work in relation to singing, and it goes to diaphragm, intercostals, abdominals, vocal cords, pharynx, larynx, nasal cavities, sinuses, and all that jazz. So, highly recommend checking out that website, Dior. It's a really good question, and it's really helpful to know more about anatomy. Now, I just, again, will say, it is very helpful, and the best teacher to, I think, about lessons or singing, in my opinion, is checking in with yourself. So, like, I highly, of course, recommend voice lessons, and I feel like now as a voice teacher, I'm super in tune with how my students feel. That's really important. But it's you, it's your voice. So going based on the sound to you, the recordings of yourself, the videos of yourself, you're with yourself all the time. What changes from speaking to singing? That's something you can analyze. What do you say when or what how do you feel when you switch from head voice to mixed voice? You have that data all the time. So definitely trust yourself and like know that you are the best indicator of how something feels, obviously, because it's your body. So I just want to hope you feel like empowered and know that like your thoughts about your voice are very valuable. And I'm constantly asking my students how things feel. Oh, you said you would also talk about Michael Bublé tonight as well. Yes. The thumbnail. Of course. I never leave baritones behind. They're left behind too much. Okay? Um, yeah. So Michael Bublé, what was I gonna talk about him? I think I was going to refer to a playlist I made of a bunch of songs that do not go over E4. Go ahead and see if you can sing this note. Oops, sorry. I made a playlist where I probably messed one up, okay? There were like 60 something songs. Nothing goes above E4, according to my research on each song. So I will put it later in the comments on this playlist. So come back and check that out. Or if you're watching this later, yeah, I made a playlist because I feel like baritones feel like they're left behind or like there's no low. And Michael Bublé, he's our like beacon of light for baritones because so much of his music caters to baritones. He's a baritone, so we think. I'm sure he said it, but I'm just saying his voice definitely caters to baritones. Now, if you're a tenor, it's great to start with a Michael Bublé song because he does get up there. He does sing higher. All right. Good question here. Do you actually need a degree to teach music? Thoughts on that? I don't think so. I don't think so. I have lots of friends who are teachers, who are wonderful teachers, who can't read music, actually. I do think you have to know what you don't know, okay? And be very transparent, though. And I also think this is getting into like personal soapbox territory, so I'll try not to get too long-winded. But I will say it's important for music teachers or especially voice teachers because like very much personal and it's your body. So technically, I don't know all my singers like what they're dealing with medically and physically. I'm not a doctor. And when your body is your instrument, I do think you have to be careful about how you teach, being gentle. I'm a big proponent of being gentle with your voice because we are all different. And I definitely do not expect all my students to have the same voice as me or the same type of voice or do the same exact techniques that I do in certain parts of their range because we're all built differently. We have different vocal folds and muscles and shapes in our body. So, anyway, it's just as long as like the teacher is aware of that and I would say like being flexible. So, the science on voice is very new and it's coming out like all the time and it's just being aware of that and being able to change. But it's like all things. Okay, we all have to change with the times and like update ourselves on new science and like when we find out, oh, don't push down on the pelvic floor, like don't do that anymore, but like having nuance and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think it's a really interesting question. I would never tell anyone to not do something they want to do if it's not hurting anybody. Like, live your life. Live your life. Okay? Yeah. Good question. Love the questions, guys. Keep them coming if you have any. Probably going to tap out here in about 10 minutes or so. So, yeah. Question from DR. Thanks, DR. I'm really loving your questions a lot. So, thank you. How to keep up my stamina to be able to sing the demanding songs of modern Broadway? A good question. So, modern Broadway is interesting because I feel like modern Broadway, this is my opinion, is actually a lot more nuanced than some of the older Broadway. Like, I'm thinking, here's where I'm coming from when I say that. Okay. So let me just say my line of thought of why I think that. So when I think of like older Broadway, I think of life is a cabaret, like very chesty and like kind of push sounding, honestly. Like, it's hard to replicate that if you have like a lighter voice. Whereas now you have, it's not simple to say most days don't recognize me. The Sarah Bareilles Waitress musical. You've got like Hadestown, and even in Mean Girls, you do have Renee Rapp, who's got this powerhouse of a voice, but you've also got Katie, I don't know the actress who played her, but more lighter singing as well. So there's flexibility there. Even with Cynthia Erivo, who like does these big belty moments, she also brings it back. So I think it's just knowing when to pace yourself and knowing, okay. And I would suggest Matt Edwards' specific video, Common Misconceptions About Belting, because he touches on this and that video is amazing and much better explained than me probably. But he talks about knowing when to ease up on that intensity and knowing your limits. So if you feel like you're singing your big number, knowing like what is the level that's sustainable. You can feel it, check in with yourself. Like T Swift, our girl. I truly believe the reason why she integrates mixed voice so much and head voice so much, this is for the best. My reputation's never been worse, so it's because she knows how to pace herself. She's not doing the whole thing and listen for the best. My reputation's never been worse. So no, she doesn't do that. She just sings it in that voice, and it's actually very lovely. So you can do the same thing in musical theater, knowing when to do that and to really think about, in this like sad song, do I need to do this in my belt or can I like sing this in head voice? Like a lot of those slower ballads, there's plenty of room to ease up, sing in head voice, sing softly. And these days you've got a microphone. A lot of those older styles wasn't as the sound engineering was not the same. Okay. Like Gilbert and Sullivan, if you go back in the day, that wasn't mic'd. But that's old. That's so old. That's a stretch. I'm not sure if Rodgers and Hammerstein, like Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain. I'm not sure if that was mic'd at first either. That was a lot. Like you really had to have a more operatic technique for stuff like that. But I don't know. Maybe they did have microphones when that first came out. I don't know. But that kind of plays into it a little bit, like knowing you're going to have a microphone. So I hope that helps. Great questions, guys. I'm loving the questions. I'm glad we talked about so much. And I did also say in the Facebook group, if you're in our Facebook group, feel free to join us in the Facebook group. I like post little tips and stuff, and people ask questions in there as well. But I got this toy piano. Oh God. Because I usually use my iPad keyboard throughout the day to like check notes and stuff. But I thought, no, I'm going to get a toy piano for fun here. And I wanted something because the iPad only shows like 17 keys or something like that. This has like 49, okay? Look at this bad boy. I can check all the notes. I wrote my like C3 so I can not have to think and I can just look at it. Anyway, it's great. It sounds terrible. But you know what? I can go, what note is that? And look at this. A lot of songs like that. So pretty cool. It has different instruments. Anyway, and drum sounds. Okay, I feel like this is getting into millennial cringe. Okay, any other questions? I'm going to log off soonish, and I really want to give you guys time to ask questions if you have them. I have loved this. If you want to work one-on-one with me, just hit me up on the old website, oliviapeck.com. I take voice memos, one-on-one lessons. This is a really good time to jump into singing lessons if your schedule permits, because generally for pretty much all voice teachers, it's all probably tutors, just like it gets a little like the schedule in the summer is very like there's openings and there's not, but it's a little people go on vacation, so I can easily fit you in if you probably that would fit with your schedule during the summer, because some of my regular time slots, like people will go on trips and stuff. So it's very easy to get in, take a voice lesson, chat about singing. I take a very you focused approach. I want to know about you. I want to know your background. And you absolutely do not need experience or preparation for my lessons. I am like on the ride with you. Some people, they don't practice even in between because they're busy and they just need someone to keep them accountable and to practice with them. Like we go through it. Another fun thing that I started doing is making very personalized playlists for everybody right when they start with me. I go through your whole range with you. A lot of people don't really know what their range is, and they are not singing the right repertoire. Totally normal, okay? A lot of people, they have a hard time transitioning from making sound, like going, but then singing a song. They might do something weird. Some people have what I've heard this term recently. This is a new term, rainbow ears, which I prefer to, tone deafness. And what that means is some people, they hear overtones or undertones instead of like a core pitch. So I help a lot of singers with their pitch. And let me tell you, y'all, I still haven't met someone who's actually tone deaf. My next video on Sunday is going to be about this. You can definitely improve your pitch, in my opinion. I mean, I have heard it all. I have heard it all. And I am so optimistic about pitch because I know, like, I generally can pick up on the issue. Okay. And it's usually that people pick up on the overtones or undertones, or they're listening to a singer that isn't really in their wheelhouse and it's confusing them or something. So I really work to find like songs that fit you, and I will not I will not like just leave you hanging. So yeah, I'm very excited about the playlist. Now, something I said in another live about the playlist that I have to say this about ChatGPT right now. It has been so disappointing. Okay. Here's what I have said I used it for, and I still will use it to broaden my horizons on. It's a better search than Google, like for looking up genres and stuff. And it can get a little more specific. It can go, oh, you're looking for a lighter voice who has this range and who has very moving lyrics or whatever. It can get a little more specific. Let me tell you though, ChatGPT drops the ball time and time again. And even though I will ask it like, hey, can you give me like examples of singers, and it'll give me some things I've never heard before, which is great. I still have to go in there and be like, no, this does not fit, or no, they got this wrong about range. So it's really best if you yourself can check songs on a keyboard yourself. And if you can learn that, or if you can get a musician or a teacher to double check the notes. There's too many people on the internet who have fed ChatGPT the wrong information. Like, I'll even be on YouTube and find playlists like for sopranos or for altos, and I'm like, this is not. And I've been guilty of probably like lumping some singers into like, oh, that's an alto, when really they're more in the middle, or soprano, or more soprano. So we all make mistakes on how we classify people and run with it, but just be careful. The most important thing is you finding out your range, like what is it? Find your range, where your breaks are, which I will do with you, and then what's actually going to fit your voice. Another mistake people make is they think their range is just the lowest note to the highest note. Okay? If we did that, then my lowest note would be like, I'm not singing anything down there. What's my actual lowest note? Probably that. So it's finding stuff out like that. Technically, I can sing. Good Lord. Am I singing anything up there? No, I'm not. I don't want to do that. And so some people get trapped like singing all their songs like in the arms of an angel. Like they think they have to sing in this range when really they've got all these other things they can sing like way lower, So that's what we do. We figure out, all right, what's your actual range? What's like your full voice? Okay, that was long-winded. I'm gonna sign off. I've had a great time. Look out for the next vid on pitch being quote unquote tone deaf. I don't think you are, okay? But if you're not sure what to watch after this, I would definitely recommend, we talked so much about mixed voice today, watching that video. Or if you want a little more insight on heavy voice versus medium voice, light voice, I always recommend the video by Matt Edwards. And that one is common misconceptions about belting. You can look it up. And if you really would like some one-on-one help, y'all know how you can find me. It's going to be on end screen. Okay. But most importantly, thank you all for being here. This has been a total joy. And I'll see you on the next live. Bye. I'm ending it. I really am. I'm clicking it. Okay. It's going to play the outro.